Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. Today I want to talk a little bit, mostly about strikes, the new feature that dropped today that was included as part of the flagship stuff, and because I'm going to do a whole video on all the flagship buffs and changes, and maybe even like a tier list for them or something like that, and it's going to be long because I need to just literally test all these abilities out, and there's a lot. Some of them are clearly like really good, some of them are completely useless. The strikes, however, are pretty simple to understand and use, and very quickly completely affect gameplay. So I just want to talk about how you use them, what they could potentially be used for, and all that sort of good stuff. So my fleet's now set up. I'm going to show you how to start the strike and what it sort of does, and yeah, we'll have a chat from there. So very easy to do. Once you've got your flagship set up, for an example here, I have my Predator here. He's set up. He's got the flagship. He has command strike, strategic strike level 2, which gives me 120 degree cone. Some of the carriers have full 360. I think the series is like a 90 degree cone. The basic Predator has a full 360. I'm using the tactical Predator here because I just had them built. So yeah, there are multiple different strike types. You can see them in the blueprints. We can jump in and have a quick look even. So we look cruisers, Predator. On the command system itself, you can see here we have strategic strike 2. Oh, it's got strategic strike 2, 120 degree area. And this one can increase the radius of the strike plus 0.5. At base, I believe it's 5 or 10, one of the two. And basically you're just extending out the range and stuff like that. But I'll talk a bit more about that kind of stuff in a minute, because I want to talk about CV3K, Marshall Crooks, Solar Whale a little bit, because they're going to be the main ones that you're going to be doing this on. But I'm not at the point where I can have them built. I'm on R7, I think, Zone 7. Yeah, Zone 7, going on 8. Should say, somewhere. Yeah, going up to 7 even. So yeah, I'm a little bit off from getting carries out. But I can still show off the strike. So once you have your Predator or Carrier or whatever you're using as your strategic strike, you have this nice big button which you can click. In the case of this ship, as you can see, I can rotate this round. I'm actually going to move myself a bit closer because it's a little bit too far away. And basically it'll shoot out, or it has a setup time where your ship cannot be moved, or your fleet cannot be moved, and all of the ships that are within this fleet will send out their aircraft into that zone for 30 minutes, and they will just attack everything in that circle. There seems to be a relative order to it, and that's the fleet closest to the fleet itself will be attacked first. And there's some other nuances with different strategic types as well, including some of the carriers can like hit multiple fleets at the same time and that kind of stuff. And I just want to talk a little bit about that a bit later on. So once your fleet gets into position, like so, you hit the strategic strike again. Again, you got this cone for this one. You can see I can rotate it round. I can get 3 fleets in here just about. Can't get these last 2, they are out of range. Hit confirm. You can see that there's a hit time preparation here of 10 minutes. It's going to cost me 30 action points. You can change the amount of duration that the strike's going to be around for, up to 2 hours. It's going to cost you more AP for the longer that you want to do this. And on here you can see targets hit, and this is to do with the target selection that I can tell you a little bit later on. We have wave here. Wave 1 will send out my Neb chasers. Wave 2 is going to send out my Strix. Wave 3 sends out my spores, and wave 4 sends out my cellular defenders. I'm not entirely sure what these are dependent on, like at all. I'm guessing it's going to be similar to, because even in Wave 1 you have a couple of spores in here, so I'm not sure why they're in Wave 1, or it just forces this kind of amount out, or, you know, why it's Corvettes first and then fighters and then Corvettes again. So it's something we need to sort of work out why that's going on, basically. So yeah, again, lots of testing going on. I'm guessing the more waves, more aircraft you have, the more waves is going to be as well. But again, we'll have to test that out when I eventually can get round to it. So we confirm that. We can now see we got a 10-minute cooldown. This is setting up my little circle. Anything flying into here that is deemed an enemy will be attacked. And yeah, so in 10 minutes, we'll find out what's going on, and we'll have a look at how my fleets are doing and that kind of thing. So in the sort of 10 minutes that it's doing its thing, let's have a look at, say, the Solar Whale first, and then we'll go down, we'll have a look at the other two carriers, because they've got the sort of the most important ones. So first off, you have Strategic Strike 2 as base, which means you could just do the Strategic Strike I just did. However, you can purchase an upgrade to Strategic Strike 3, and you can see we start with 15 GM. 5 GM is one of those tiles, the square, so 15 is 3 squares, and this is upgraded going to 20 and then 25 GM, so a 5 square 360 degree radius around the carrier. I don't know if this costs more AP, being Strategic Strike 3 over Strategic Strike 2. I'm unable to test that currently, but it's a pretty damn big radius. You then have the max Strategic Strike targets +1, which is going to allow you to attack multiple fleets. It will attack multiple fleets, but this means it will attack them at the same time. So it might send one wave off to, you know, one fleet, the second wave off to the third fleet, third wave to somewhere else, etc., etc. So be aware of that. This is going to split your fleet up. In the sense of that, if it's to do with PvP, I highly recommend not picking this, because splitting your fleet up, they can still get attacked by air. So if these fly into a swarm or another aircraft fleet, yeah, that little wave that just went off to go attack, and because you got another wave attacking somewhere else, it's going to die very, very rapidly. So be aware of that, that the multi-target could bite you in the ass pretty quickly. The Solar Whale also has repairs 2% damage on aircraft returning from a strategic strike. From a little bit of testing we did earlier in the IL Discord with Jin, this seems to be at the very end of the strategic strike, so not as when they're sort of bouncing between fleets, coming back and stuff like that. It's at the end of the strategic strike, and yeah, it goes up to 4%. It's not particularly great. I can't even imagine how useful that is. We also have Strategic Strike Radius +5, so you can further increase the size of this up to 35, which is a 7 square radius, like a big 360 giant operation circle around the Solar Whale. It's a big area. And you also have increased system HP. We then have on the Marshall Crux, again, same thing with strategic strikes. It's also got the strike targets. This is where it differs, and I think the Marshall Crux might actually be better here, is increase the main weapon's hit rate of aircraft carrying out strategic strike by 2%, going up 4 times, so an 8% hit rate bonus for your aircraft, which is fantastic. Prioritize launching aircraft squadrons that extended attack duration as strategic strike. This generally means corvettes, and I believe what will happen here is it's going to launch all your corvettes in each of the waves before it will launch the fighters and the bombers. So this might actually be really useful, getting your CVT-800s in quicker and that kind of thing. Also, as the strategic strike radius increases, and we have system HP again, in my opinion, just because it's got the hit rate bonus, it's probably better. The wave adjustment might actually be really good here as well. And then we have the CV3K. which starts off with Strategic Strike 1, can be upgraded to get Strategic Strike 3, but it only has that 15 GM range. You have the wave adjustment here. Aircraft engine improvement, the 25% cruising speed for your aircraft. This is going to make them really damn rapid. And you have the reinforced bridge armor, which is going to increase system HP. I think the CV3K's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit due to this. I think you're generally going to want a Marshal Crux as the main. However, the maximum distance being only 15 GM, I'm not sure it's going to affect it too much on more of a defensive role. Because on a defensive role, you may have something like an aircraft fleet, and that's just going to be sat there in the back behind, say, a load of blockaded fleets, and it's going to let you just strategic strike in front of all your fleets, and it's fine. It's not going to, you know, affect anything at that point. So more testing has to be done, especially PvP circumstances, with those strategic strikes and stuff like that, and to work out which ones are sort of going to be of any use to you and that kind of thing. So definitely some interesting stuff going on, because it's going to change up the sort of meta of ships and how we build fleets in the current moment. There is an argument that the current swarm fleets you may just leave as is, and you don't care about the strategic strike function, due to the fact that if they get strategic striked themselves, there's a good potential that you normally have the air to counter air anyway in those fleets. So yeah, it might possibly not change the meta whatsoever. However, it may change the meta in the way that I think is going to happen, is where we're going to see very highly specialized fleets coming in, because I think we worked out, I think it was around 300-ish CP, maybe a bit more. You can get all 120 of your aircraft out, which means that 300 CP is now just a pure aircraft fleet, where you're going to use strategic strikes on like this, meaning you've freed up the rest of your CP. And in a union with plus 100 CP, the potential to run an aircraft fleet, your defensive assault fleet, which will sit in front of said aircraft fleet, stopping anyone getting to it, also being supported by the aircraft fleet with strategic strikes. It's going to be very AP expensive, but it's potentially worth it, especially on a more defensive point of view, because you don't have to be you're more stationary on defensive, whereas on assault you are trying to move around and get flanks and stuff. So defensive, and then potentially a pure anti-air fleet with some kind of light cone in it. This is due to the fact that if we have a look at the light cone buff here, if I can find the command system, it's on the anti-aircraft system. Command system. Wait, is it not on this one? It's on this one, right? They put it on the assault one? Okay, that's interesting, because we were looking at this earlier. The light cone is supposed to have a command system, but I don't have a command system, like bar the standard one. So the light cone was supposed to get an AA system that allows all ships in mid-row to have anti-air within the mid-row. So even if it doesn't have, if it has AA weapons, but it wasn't row-wide AA weapons, it would basically make them have row-wide AA weapons. For an example, a Ruby Ion has AA weapons. It also has a strategy to make them row-wide, but only triggers every 30 seconds or something like that. Now you can permanently have them row-wide, and you could put Mer Tranquillatus into that middle row and also have it row-wide. And a bunch of the really strong aircraft fleets anti-aircraft fleets can sit in that mid-row. And you may want this, or maybe even on like an escort order, is a potential here for that assault fleet. So if it does get striked by an air fleet, it will move into position to take out the air as well. So there's quite a lot going on in terms of, one, what we need to test, which is just like unfathomable at the moment. Like, there's so many of these weird little strategies and stuff like that, and just like all of the strikes. What are like new fleets? Are they really going to be efficient versus the current meta swarm fleets? The specialized fleets, are we going to start doing that instead? We do know for a fact the aircraft are getting hangar buffs, because we've tested that already. We haven't been able to test if they'll hit, say you've got carriers on, if they'll hit carriers. But as you can see here, we have our waves going out, which is very cool. So we'll start on this now. And if we jump into here, we'll see their fleet's got some Newlands, Crashers, Star Sweepers, and you can see my fleet, it's just pure air. That's it. No mid row, no back row, anything like that. And you can see they'll just start pinging away at all the enemies in this fleet, destroying them. It's actually kind of scary because you can really see now that AA on ships isn't particularly great, because there is literally no excuse here for ships not to be blowing up pretty quickly. There is no ships for these ships to be shooting at. They literally only have an air target here. And yeah, pretty much not really taking any substantial damage here whatsoever. I'm pretty certain the only damage that these have taken are probably from the Newlands that were here a second ago. So yeah, kind of a bit awkward, I guess, because now we're kind of seeing that the AA is just even worse potentially. Before, like I was mentioning with a light cone, you could potentially have an AA fleet dedicated, and that might work a little bit better. So we'll wait for this to finish. I swear they've upgraded some of these explosions and stuff at some point, because or is it because you're closer to the fleet now because of it being this kind of strike thing? It looks great, not gonna lie, but yeah, definitely looks a bit more different, and I'm genuinely not sure why. I think it's something to do with the explosions. Maybe Corvettes look bigger now as well, maybe. I have no idea. It could be specific to the strike screen, and this is like some kind of special battle screen. I haven't actually got onto like a standard combat battle this update so far. Oh, obviously, it's only been out for a few hours. So we can see here, oddly, that attacked on the left. I was kind of expecting it to attack the closest one, because that's what it did in previous testing. And now it's attacking one further back. So ignore the fact that it's attacking, that I said it's attacking the closest fleet, because apparently it's got nothing to do with that. So I have no idea how you determine what target's going to be first whatsoever in this circumstance. We can see there we had some planes going back. That's part of the RTB. So they go back now, have to reload, refuel and stuff, and come back out. Obviously things like Corvettes and stuff stay out longer. So yeah, quite a lot going on. Again, we've got pretty much the identical fleet here, isn't it? Yeah, it was the one with the CAS in it, which has just got blown up in time. Nice. So let's have a quick look at this battle report. So you can see I've done a couple of strikes early when I was testing. And yeah, they did 7k AA damage over 2 minutes. I guess it's not too bad, and that's mostly from the ions, but again, it's not really much. And it actually didn't get anything from the B192 Newlands, which is interesting. Will attack. I have attacked a fleet in one of my tests, which had spores in it, and they definitely did some damage. There you go, there's 17,000 damage here coming from the spores. So your in fleets will be able to, you know, defend against them a little bit. You do have a special strategic strike screen here for your battle reports, which is very cool. And yeah, something to note. Oh, they fixed it. When did they fix it? It wasn't working before. So before, the blueprint experience wasn't working. It's now clearly working, but I didn't have a patch. How is this working now and not before? I don't get it. Something's clearly happened. Light clones have disappeared. Yeah, this is how it was before. Battle result, no rewards. Battle result, no reward. Something must have happened at some point to Something to be aware of, only fighters and stuff are getting any experience off of strikes. So if you do need to level up your aircraft carriers and stuff like that, you're going to have to throw them into a battle to level them up if you need to. And you probably will, because the tech point costs on like the upgrades for strikes are absolutely insane. Like I think it was like 20 tech points just to get this one onto my tactical. Yeah, strategic strike 2, I think it was like 20 points. And then we can increase the angle plus 20%. It's at 120, so that goes to 140, 160, 180. 180 degree angle. I don't think you'd ever really need to do that, but we'll have to see. Also curious if, you know, not maxing the command system will still give you the effect of the nice looking ships or not. But again, I don't have anywhere near the tech points able to even think about that. So that's how to do strikes. Something else to note about strikes, you can stop the strike mid-strike by clicking stop strike, and that will stop it. This will put you into the strike cooldown, which is a 2-minute countdown. You have to stay stationary for those 2 minutes for the strike to finish. You can't move anyway. It won't give you the option to strategic strike in progress. Once that's over, you can do what you want. You can move around, stuff like that. If you need to get the fleet out a little bit quicker, you can retreat the fleet. You don't lose anything, which is unfortunate. I think if you retreat too quickly, you should at least lose the fighters that are currently out. So I think that'll look better. This, by the way, is what a strategic strike looks like if there's no sort of ships in the area. You just got these nice little sprites of fighters flying about. These are stingrays, I think, aren't they? Kind of look like the stingrays. So yeah, you don't lose anything to retreat. You can just retreat. So I'm sure that's going to be used a lot just to save your carriers and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that has swapped something in the meta, which was the anti-carrier fleet, because there's a good chance now the carriers aren't going to be in the swarm fleet that you fly into with your anti-carrier fleet. They're going to be strategic striking. So there's a lot going on meta-wise, so be aware of that, of lots of changes and different things happening over the next week, maybe 2. I don't know how long this is going to test. Obviously, I don't have carriers out, so I'm going to have to rush into that to even start testing some of the more sort of top-end things that are going on. So, that's some basics of strikes. We've talked a little bit about the main 3 areas because they're probably what you're going to be using for strikes. Obviously, you can do it on Predators. Series also has an option as well. I think Guardian as well. Also, oddly, I think the Tundras and stuff have something as well. That's not a Tundra. What am I clicking on? Why am I clicking everything wrong today? Tundra. Unfortunately, I think it's on the weird base type. Yeah, it's got strategic strike, but this doesn't have any aircraft. Why would it have it? I think it's the same for the Guardian. Command system. Strategic strike level 1. I'm pretty certain both of those are meant to be on the dual purpose and the aircraft variant of the Tundra, and they've made a mistake. Because generally, someone else showed me the command system on the Tundra aircraft and it had nothing. If I look at the Tundra, we go into dual purpose, it's got nothing. So yeah, definitely something a bit odd going around. Focus fires on everything. I think it's basically just saying it's to prioritize systems due to the weapon loadouts and that kind of thing. So Storm Missile System, for example, you have the attack priority. I'm pretty certain it's all to do with just that, basically, which is interesting why they've implemented that as a thing on every command system now. We'll have to see. So, a little bit basic strike stuff. Let me show you quickly how you set a flagship as well. It's pretty simple. When you go into your fleet view at base, you click and appoint as flagship, and that's it. Bear in mind, there are a lot of different strikes. Well, strategies, or I don't know what to really call them, flagship skills going along. So definitely check them out. Spear's got a really interesting one. Obviously, you have strategic strike on a bunch of carriers. Check out. There was an interesting one, I think, on the IO. And the ST59's got something going on for it. The CTG's got something going for it. Eternal Storm's got some really interesting ones as well, where it's got the guard ability, the patrolling defense, which will guard resources, and then you've got a second one if you add in the weird shield UAV, which I don't think I have, actually. I do have the Thunderstorm shield UAV. And I don't have any tech points in Eternal Storm anyway, because I haven't used it yet. It's my list of ships to start using once I've got bored of my ST59, which is kind of unlikely because it's still way better looking than an Eternal Storm. Anyway, so go check out all the strike stuff and all that other good stuff. Hopefully this helps you out with strikes a little bit and gives you an idea of what kind of metas you might be sort of looking into or potentially seeing later on. I will try and get as much testing as I can do as soon as I can. I said I was going to take December off, and then they dropped this, and now I'm not going to be able to take December off because I'm going to have to do all this stuff. Have a good one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.